Hi, I'm Dave, and welcome to the Gamer's Den. Today we'll be doing my segment on the card game Versus System 2PCG that was created by Danny Mandel and Ben Chahosky of Super Awesome Games and is developed by Upper Deck Entertainment. The game has so far taken in licensing from Marvel Comics and big film franchises from the 20th Century Fox, which is Alien and Predator. And there's many others that they have licensing to, and I'm really excited to see what they come up with within the next upcoming year. So for this segment, what we're going to be doing is reviewing supporting character cards within the Versus System 2PCG game. And what I wanted to do is review some of the supporting characters for each team and review each of their supporting characters to see how each team varies throughout the game. And each team usually has its own type of strategy that you're going to be trying to use while you're playing with that team. And the first team I wanted to review is Guardians of the Galaxy. And I wanted to look at the one-drop supporting characters on this team. And that includes Charlie 27, Cosmo, and Yondu. So, let's look at our first one drop for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that is Charlie 27. Charlie 27 was recently released in the Legacy expansion set, and he definitely adds a lot to the Guardians of the Galaxy team. But let's look at his background first. Charlie 27 was born to, well, you guessed it, Charlie 26, and was bioengineered to be able to work as a miner on the planet Jupiter, within its intense gravitational pull on its planet. And the thing is that he's about 6 feet tall, he weighs over 500 or so pounds. We're talking a very dense, muscular character. And what ended up happening is that Jupiter was attacked by an invasion force known as the Badoons, who's known all over the Marvel Universe as being this invasion force that has ruined a lot of characters' lives. Charlie 27 is one of the only survivors from the Badoon invasion on Jupiter, and he actually travels across the universe and even comes across some other survivors of the Badoon invasions, in which they get together and form a team known as the Guardians of the Galaxy that we kind of know and love even to today. So with that being said about Charlie 27's background, let's actually look at his card and how he's actually going to play within the game. So Charlie 27 has 1 attack, 1 defense, and has 3 health. He has a superpower called Jovian Strength, and during your combat, when you attack an enemy supporting character, you can pay a green or a might, and Charlie 27 gains attack and defense until he is 27 attack, 27 defense this combat. 1 attack and 1 defense is nothing to brag about. For a 1-drop. There's a few other 1-drops that have 1 attack, 1 defense, such as Crossbones that came out in the Legacy set, as well as Carnage, who came out in the Defenders set. But we're going to have to see what else Charlie 27 has in order to make him a very viable character. Well, once you look at that 1 attack, 1 defense, now you move on to his health stat. 3 health. 3 health is great, especially on a 1-drop. And seeing how he has low attack and defense stats, having a high health stat is really what helps really balance him out. He's definitely someone that's going to be there on the battlefield from turn to turn to turn, and he can even run himself into some even bigger characters, even like a Rocket, who only has 1 defense and 4 attack, and he can get himself stunned to take out Rocket and be able to get the job done. But there's something else that he can use to help his team. And that's something he got even when he was born and when he was raised on Jupiter. And that is his Jovian Strength. When you attack an enemy supporting character, you become a 27 attack, 27 defense Goliath that can take down any character on the board. And I really think that Charlie 27, I think the blatant strategy for him is to run him into big characters. Thanos, Fin Fang Foom, and others that can get much bigger as the game progresses. So you really want to have Charlie 27 to come out, take down those big enemies, and that's what makes him a very versatile 1-drop, because you can bring him down in the very early parts of the game, you can bring him out in the middle of the game, and even in the later parts of the game, he can fit any drop in your curve when you're making a deck that can be able to take down these enemies. This is all great and all, but there's definitely some weak points to him. First of all, is the actual superpower. You can only use it on your turn during your attack. So that really limits the time frame in which you can actually use this ability. You're going to really feel like you're going to need to put something out to defend him. Even the odds is going to weaken him greatly. Once he gets that 27-27 and then you just take it all away and he becomes a measly 1-1 again, you can even just have him become stunned within the combat and the enemy defender is not even attacked at all. They don't even get struck. I think the Avengers have one of the best counters to most characters, and that is Think Again. And I think Think Again, just canceling the combat is going to be a very big counter for him. Also, Shadowcat, who can do what Think Again does, as well as add another character to your side and cancel a combat. So there's a lot of things that can get in the way of Charlie 27 from taking down your big guys. I know it's been stated in other podcasts when they actually looked at Charlie 27, they were like, you do not want to attack against a main character version of Drax or Mystique.
I would not slice his throat. I would cut his head clean off.
Because Drax is going to love to get 3 XP for just taking him out really easily on his turn, and Mystique will love to become a level 2 as well after consuming all that attack power that Charlie 27 builds when he's attacking her. And he only costs 1. So just think about it that way. You can bring a 1-drop out on turn 7 to take out one of their 7 or 8 drop characters that they have to wait the whole game to get to. And finally, flavor-wise. First of all, he doesn't have flight or range, which I think makes sense. He's a very big melee guy. He's a big, strong, brute force dude. The 1 attack, 1 defense is what really started to bug me when I was looking at this and kind of being like, how is this going to connect flavor-wise with him from the comics? So looking at it that way, I started thinking of ways to do this with storytelling. Since Versus System 2 PCG has all the elements of storytelling, main characters, supporting characters, locations, plot twists, equipment, I thought it would be interesting to actually try to use a storytelling element to try to explain why he only has 1 attack, 1 defense, and then has his Jovian strength. Charlie 27 has a very militaristic mind. It's a pretty sound military strategy, which is you don't show off all your guns right at the very beginning, right? You let your opponent think that you're weak, and then once they get close to you, boom, that's when you take out the big guns. What you can also think about is, oh, well, maybe he doesn't know what type of setting he is on at the moment, not knowing what type of power he has. All right, do I have really superhuman strength, or is this going to be really taxing on me to be able to be on this planet? And if, of course, if he's on Earth, he's going to have an incredible amount of power and strength. So, of course, that's when his Jovian strength comes out. I'm going to be able to take down the enemy. You probably didn't know this, but I'm actually incredibly huge and can destroy you right now. So our next supporting character is Cosmo. So let's look at his background. Cosmo comes from Earth 616, so the main Marvel universe. And he was part of a Soviet space program that launched dogs out into outer space. I'm assuming he goes through a wormhole or something, and he ends up in the city Nowhere, which is inside the skull of a huge celestial being. So he kind of moves into Nowhere, becomes very accustomed to the town, and actually becomes one of their security chiefs. And while he's there, he gains telepathic and telekinetic abilities. So he is able to control things with his mind, he can read thoughts, he can do this and that. K9, who can do all these amazing things with his mind. Now, what ends up happening is that his town Nowhere gets attacked by a group of thugs. So while on Nowhere, he actually comes into contact with a space police officer named Nova. And Nova is basically trying to take down this group of thugs that has been kind of traveling across the galaxy. They end up coming to Nowhere. He helps Nova take them down, and he ends up befriending Nova and actually joining his team, in which they help go join the other Guardians of the Galaxy from Earth 616. So we have the Guardians of the Galaxy from Earth 691, as well as the Guardians from 616. And towards the end of one of the Guardian storylines, Star-Lord tells Cosmo to create a new team after the failure of the first Guardians in order to create another team to defend the galaxy, in which he does, and they actually go on many adventures after that. So Cosmo continues to evolve, he continues to grow on his powers, and we're going to see what he's able to do in Versus System 2 PCG. Cosmo has 1 attack, 3 defense, 1 health, and his range capability. He also has a keyword power called Nullify. Now, before I go into reading Nullify, I wanted to let you know that Nullify has actually gotten a change since the original launch of the Marvel Battle set, and I kind of want to explain why that is. Cosmo was seen in a lot of decks in tournament play, and the developers believe that he was in, well, too many decks. So they wanted to make sure to give a little bit more opportunity to other 1-drops to shine within the tournament decks, and Cosmo ended up getting a little bit of a nerf. And what it ended up doing is, I think, the complete opposite. I think it took him out of a lot of people's decks, and I don't think a lot of people want to put him back in. So let's look at the keyword as it is stated today. So when Cosmo appears, choose an enemy character. That character cannot gain keyword or superpowers this turn. On the original writing, it didn't say this turn. It said until Cosmo leaves play or gets stunned. So as you can see, the time frame of how long the ability works for got changed. And I think maybe the developers believed that it lasted too long, or that he could be easily protected behind other characters, and that maybe a whole main character won't be able to use their superpower the whole game, and they thought, well, that's not fun. Now with that being said, let's actually start to analyze the card. 1 attack and 3 defense is not terrible for a 1-drop. I think 3 defense for a 1-drop with range is actually pretty good. With only 1 health, he's not going to be on the table for too long, but that nullified keyword power is what's really going to be the main usage of Cosmo. You're not going to be really using him to attack enemy players. You're mostly going to be using him for that nullified keyword power. So let's kind of look at what kind of strategies can be used with it. Now, in the new wording of this keyword power, you can only take away keyword powers and superpowers that turn. And maybe if you have a deck where you have a lot of range attackers on your side, Cosmo could be very useful to come down, take away dodge from an opponent, and be able to have your range attackers be able to attack that character. There's characters like Elektra, Daredevil, Stick, and many others, including Spider-Man, that could actually be taken out with a ranged character if you just took away that keyword dodge. Since it's only on this turn, you also have to think about any other characters that have any combat superpowers that are on their side, especially ones that can do it during any person's combat that could be able to help defend someone else on their side. And if you took that away, then you can be able to easily take down those characters as well. So there's a lot of strategy with Cosmo, but I think it's a lot of maneuvering that you have to do just to take away someone's superpower. Well, I think it could have been changed to, instead of saying this turn, it could have been until your next turn, until the start of your next turn. And the reason why I think that is because it also enables you to stop them from being able to use superpowers on you. So another way that you can use this new version of Cosmo is you can use those recycling people, such as Singularity, or even Doorman, or even Magic. Be able to have them disappear, be removed from the game or put into your hand, and then have them reappear on your side to trigger that ability again. So you can trigger Nullify again every time he appears on your side. So you want to make sure you have as many ways that you can be able to do that as possible if you have Cosmo in your deck. I really don't think you're going to be using his other multiple copies in order to power him up. I just really think that you're mostly just going to be trying to recycle him or be able to try to get him out onto the board as many times as you can to have him appear so that you can keep taking away enemy supporting characters. Now, I think Cosmo is a very big disruptive character. I really think he ruins your enemy's day, mostly because he can take away their keyword and superpowers, especially on a character like Magneto, who can boost his defense with his superpower. Bring him out, now you can just do free reign on Magneto unless he has plot twists that can help protect him. But beyond that, if he doesn't, with Cosmo just coming out on that turn. So those are just things to think about with using Cosmo. There's going to be a lot of maneuvering. You're going to have using other characters in order to help him be recycled back onto your side. But I don't know, maybe he could be much more useful now in his new state. I really like you guys to leave me something in the comments about Cosmo, about what are some strategies that you guys can use now with him. What are some characters that he really combos well with? And kind of see what he can, just see what the future of this card is going to be with these newer sets that are coming out. So let's look at him flavor-wise. Well, he is a 1-drop, and I like to think that this might be an early version of Cosmo. I'm really hoping to see a different version of Cosmo come out just to see a different side to him, to see other abilities that he's capable of doing. We have seen Iceman, Angel, Black Widow, a lot of other characters get doubles within the game. I really love to see Cosmo get a double and become maybe a 3 or 4 drop. So with the 1 attack and 3 defense, I think 3 defense makes sense with him flavor-wise, mostly because he can do a lot of things to defend himself with his mind. He can cloak himself from people's view. He can do a lot of different things in order to prevent himself from getting hurt in combat. As well as the fact that he's a dog. He can probably run much faster than a human being. He can probably do a lot of different things. Now, I think range makes sense on telekinetic and telepathic beings, so it enables them to control people from a distance. And instead of actually thinking that he's actually shooting someone with a gun, he's actually just probing someone or maybe causing someone to get a headache or something like that. He only has 1 attack. So he's not really doing a lot with just, his probing of his mind or anything like that. I think the Nullify keyword power ties in directly to his telekinetic and telepathic abilities. So I really think that's really great with Cosmo. But I'm really interested to see how people can continue to use him and hopefully find a really good place for him in a tournament deck. The next character is probably the most popular of them all, and that's Yondu. So let's look at Yondu's background. He's from Earth 691, which is the same universe that Charlie 27 is a part of. And he comes from another planet called Centauri 4, where he's raised by a primitive tribe of beings that are on that planet. So what ends up happening is a ship crash lands on his planet that is piloted by Vance Astro, who he actually befriends and actually forms a tight bond with while he's on Centauri 4. But then his home planet is attacked by, you guessed it, the Badoons. And the Badoons come down again and attack his home planet, in which they end up getting captured within the invasion and brought down to their headquarters, which is on the planet Earth. And on planet Earth, he comes in contact with Charlie 27 and Martin X, and there they actually start forming the Guardians of the Galaxy that we know of and love today. Since Yondu is part of this primitive tribe of people on Centauri 4, he learns how to be a bowman, he learns how to hunt, he learns how to fight. He learned how to do a lot of these things with primitive weapons like swords as well as bows and arrows. And he was also able to control something called the Yaka arrow, which is created out of a material that is only found on his planet that's sensitive to sound. And he can actually move it with whistling. And we have seen this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have seen him multiple times taking down lots of people with his Yaka arrow. But now we actually get to see how powerful it is in the actual card game. So let's look at his statistics. He has 1 attack, 2 defense, and 2 health with range capability. And he has a superpower called, the Yaka arrow. And during the main phase, if you pay a red or a skill, you can actually trigger his Yaka arrow to attack a supporting character, in which you can stun a supporting character of cost 3 or less. So now that we've looked at his card, let's actually start to analyze the stats on it. Just, 1 attack is not great for a card, but with range capability, I guess it's not too bad. But there's not many cards that he can be able to attack and take out just solely on his own. I think I looked into it. I think out of 1-drops, I think there's maybe 6 1-drops that he might be able to take down by himself without worrying about getting stunned back in the combat. And that's saying there's no plot twists or no superpowers being used during that combat, just based on base stats. There's only 6 cards that he can take out. And if you think about it, there are like 40 or so supporting character cards out in this game so far. So 6 out of 40 for a 1-drop, I guess is not bad, but it's not an amazing thing to kind of think about. So you're going to have to start thinking about what other strategies you're going to use with Yondu. So 2 health enables him to stay on the board for at least a few turns, enabling him to kind of stay there and be able to use his Yaka arrow at least a few times. So let's actually look at the Yaka arrow and start to analyze this. So the Yaka arrow can take down a supporting character of cost 3 or less. It stuns them. Of course, when they get stunned, they also gain a wound. That's another thing to think about while using the Yaka arrow is who you're going to use it on, as well as how effective is it actually going to be. Now there's a lot more characters with multiple health that are coming out in the game. So looking at the fact that he can set a character of 3 or less, I really like this ability personally because it enables you to take out some of the big threats earlier on in the game that might cause you a lot of issues, such as Rhino, who in turn 2 has 5 attack and 3 defense. And he's someone who may not even think about getting struck back in combat in the early parts of the game. And I think Yondu might be really good at taking him out. So I really think Yondu is #1 early game character. You bring him out, you can stun characters on your opponent's side. Deadpool main character is going to love this guy, so you can be able to take down those characters on your opponent's side to be able to have all of them stunned, enabling Deadpool to get an experience point. As well as the fact that if you make him lethal, on top of that with Deadpool's first ability, it's a really good combo in that sense. He also could be pretty useful for even characters like Gamora, who's also on this team of Guardians of the Galaxy, mostly because she wants to focus on those main characters. I think he might be useful to taking down all the other characters that are on their side so that she can focus on that main character and not have to worry about a whole bunch of others coming in and swarming and surrounding her. I would also say Yondu could be very useful for even the Professor Xavier deck because he can take out characters without even attacking. So the Yaka arrow doesn't count into combat. So you just take out someone on your opponent's side. Oh, I really didn't attack this turn, but I took down one of your opponents, and Professor Xavier still gets an experience point. So those are just things to kind of think about with Yondu. He can be used in many different types of decks. Doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive. I would say just look at what other strategies you can use with him. I really think he's great for out-of-combat stuns. Look for characters who rely on out-of-combat stuns. And I think if you need someone in the early game to give you out-of-combat stuns, it's going to be Yondu. But let's look at him flavor-wise. How does he fit flavor-wise? Well, he's a 1-drop, which means that he's one of the quickest ones that can be coming out onto the field. And he has 1 attack and 2 defense. The way I look at this, 1 attack is something that even just a normal human can be able to do on somebody. Just a normal human. Once you get up to 2, 3, 4, 2 is like someone that is very skilled or very strong. 3, 4, you're getting to superhuman type of strengths and stuff like that, as well as going up to obviously 12 or 14, which are godlike. So those are just things to kind of think about when you're looking at attacks, is that 1 I think is very basic human level, and I think Yondu is kind of basic human level. He's a very skilled warrior and combatant, but he still is not superhuman strong or anything like that from what I've seen in the comics or my readings on Yondu. So I'm going to say flavor-wise it kind of fits well. His 2 health kind of just is a testament to his durability and his ability to come back out into the battlefield, or even just his resilience, the type of mentality to have to stay onto the battlefield, to persevere as much as you can. And 2 health on a 1-drop is just great, especially the Yaka arrow, which just ties directly in with his character. So those are just things to kind of look into with Yondu. I really think that this is a great card, flavor-wise and everything else. I really would love to see maybe a 3-drop Yondu come out, or even a 2-drop Yondu to kind of see maybe some other ways that we can use him within the game. If you have any other types of strategies that you use with Yondu, please let me know. I'm very interested to see what you come up with. Now that we've looked at all 3 1-drops from Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm going to give you guys one statement, one overall analysis of how I feel about these cards. Overall, the Guardians have a good mix of aggressive and disruptive players that you can put down on turn 1. Yondu to take down those minor threats, Charlie 27 to take out the gigantic threats, as well as a Russian dog who can somehow just really ruin your opponent's day on your turn. And I think one other amazing thing to note about these 3 1-drops is that for 3 1-drops, they have a combined 6 health. That's really good. Also, I'm going to call this group the 1, 2, 3s. And if you're kind of wondering why is that, look at their defense stats and look at their health stats. If you look at their defense stats, you can see that Charlie 27, 1 defense, Yondu 2 defense, Cosmo 3 defense. Each one has either a 1 or 2 or a 3. And the 1, 2, 3s are a really good mixture of different types of characters. I really think that the Guardians have a really solid first turn move for the aggressive as well as disruptive types of players. So looking at this, an overall rating I would give these 3 1-drops is actually an 8 out of 10. I think they're well above average, doing well. I think with Cosmo getting nerfed, it kind of takes him away from certain decks and that sort of thing, which kind of brings him down a little bit. I think with Charlie 27 and Yondu coming in, they're pretty solid, and I think you'll probably see them in many decks coming up. So with that being said, thanks for watching and stopping by, and have a wonderful day.